A very special thank you to everybody who tunes in to the Justin Podcast. And I also want to give a special thanks to all my sponsors.
Hear that? That's the sound of you creating your own destiny. While others are waiting in line for brunch, you're spending Saturday in the garage. Because you went to advancedautoparts.com, ordered a platinum battery with a 3-year replacement warranty, and picked it up in-store just 30 minutes later. Now, installing a battery isn't an all-day job, but what the brunch crowd doesn't know won't hurt it. Advance Auto Parts. Let's get you back on the road. Visit advancedautoparts.com to learn more.
He's a pioneer and the voice for XTV East Coast. He's an XTV Hall of Famer. And now, Justin Turkey Legs brings his famous voice to the podcast world. This is Justin's podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sitting here with Sister Loretta, and we smoking a blunt, baby. Yes, we is. It's a good time. Ernest Justin Turkey Leg here, and man, you know, we just been sitting up here talking. I said, you know, I might as well just turn on the recorder because this is some good ass material.
Yeah, it's nice that you have your little podcast.
But we was talking about just, you know, how you came up and, you know, how you had got started and, you know, just the long ass road it took for you to actually, you know, be, you know, somebody, you know, somewhere and have a place.
Yes, that's why XTV is very special to me.
Let me get you comfortable. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, 'cause you know my voice is. Hold on,
You alright, Miss Amen? I'm alright. Good. Tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, probably one of the toughest people in all of XTV. You XTV's Haku, Miss Amen. Don't break my chill. Hush. I bop you upside your head. Just playing. But let me see. I first started and I was a character. And I came in and I always wanted to be a part of a wrestling match. But see, it was different back then because you had different racism, and not only that, but as far as a woman being involved in the sport of professional wrestling, and you know, a black woman that was my size, honey, they wasn't having that. And so I kept on fighting, and I kept trying too. I kept trying, and eventually I met a man, and he was involved in the wrestling business because I had summoned up enough money where I can go up there to the what's that place called? It wasn't a civic center. Anyway, there was a building that was not too far from my place, and they held wrestling events there every Saturday. And every Saturday, you know, I couldn't always go because we were poor, and I didn't have much money then. But I summoned up enough money, and I saw Dusty Rhodes, and he was wrestling Ric Flair. And that place went crazy. and Dusty Rhodes was in there bleeding, and I'm saying, get him off of that. Because back then we thought it was real. Yeah. We thought wrestling was real, and that's why it would be such a big deal to go down there and see those live shows. And Dusty is in there bleeding, and here come Tully Blanchard, and he done got involved, and I tell you, people got to throwing things in the ring, and just all kind of madness. They had to shut it down. And this is before they were broadcasted on television all over the nation. And, these were just little town shows, because back then, if you lived in a certain territory, and I lived in Florida, and if you lived in certain territories, you didn't see other wrestlers. So Dusty Rhodes was our hero down here in Florida, and we loved us some Dusty. And when we see him getting hurt, and Ric Flair come down here, and those darn horsemen, we get mad. And so anyway, I'm there in the front row, and I'm cussing. And there's this man next to me, and he just so happened to be a promoter. And he see how into that that I was, and we got to talking about it, and I said, yeah, I want to become involved in the sport of professional wrestling. Was he a black guy or a white guy? He was a white man, a fine white gentleman, well dressed and sharp. His name was Dean. His name was Dean Campbell. And Dean and I, he kind of, worked with me and hoped me to get into the business. See, how was that though? Well, he got me involved in the different training, and there when I trained, there was all these different men looking at me funny. And I wasn't worried about him, because I hadn't been scared, because I was from the streets. See, back then I used to like to fight a lot. I used to fight all the time, get in fights in the schoolhouse. You see any little thing that made me mad, and I was ready to fight all the time. Stay getting in trouble for fighting. And so that's why I liked wrestling so much. And, it was, like I said, it seemed real. We thought back then. We didn't know how they have it now, where, all this has been put out, and, they talk about what really happened. See, we didn't know that. All we know is that our hero was getting whooped on, and we wanted to do something about it. You ain't finna come down here and whoop on our hero. And so I would get in the ring, and they say what's called stiff, because I would, when I first got in there, I would hit hard, and I would hit for real. And they try to show me what was called a working punch. See, 'cause I was a big girl. About how big would you say that you was? Well, I probably stood about probably 5'10" and a half back then. And I was a big girl and I weighed probably 240. So I was heavy. Especially for a woman. I was heavy. And you know, they told me, again that I have to just, go home and, you know, lose some weight. And Dean, he helped work with me. See, he didn't leave me because he seen that I had that passion, that I was driven, and so I ended up losing probably about 50 pounds. I shed 50 pounds off. But see, things wasn't working out. And, when I had shed all that weight, I was still, a fairly big girl. But, as a young woman, I started to catch these different looks from these men. They liked, nice thick women like that. And for a little while, I started working at a stripper club. God, they say, man, you gonna gross out all my listeners. Well, I ain't gonna go in and like miss old Joe or what her name. I'm just saying. I don't think she said nothing that bad. It's just the thought of, her having sex or you, gross. Well, I ain't say I was fucking. I said I worked at a stripper club. It's just as bad. Go ahead. Hush, wop. That's your second time. Oh shit, I'm gonna get hit on my own show. Again, you in good company. You and Bill Hunter. Who the hell wanna be in company with that drunk fool? Anyway, what was I talking about? You was talking about getting involved in the stripper club business. Yeah, but I was only there for, a little while, and I didn't like it. I wasn't into doing no kind of rump shaking or nothing like that. That wasn't what was down my alley. I tried it, because I seen a lot of girls, had liked it and was making money. But it wasn't for me. And I got in fights at the strip club. My first night I got in a fight with a woman. Knocked that damn cold across the room. And I'm talking about, it's one of those things where she spilled her drink on me and she didn't try to do it. But I just had such a bad temper that I would just really just go off and, just snap. And I knocked that woman clean across the room, and the music stopped. And everybody's looking at me. And I just walked out. And that was the first night. And I didn't like it. But I did it for a little while, and I made a little money because I had to, Yeah, that's crazy. So, I mean, how did you end up getting back involved with wrestling? Well, I went back up there to the training facility after a while to see what they said, and I was ready to go, and they gave me another tryout match, and they see that I could move a little better and different things like that. But that didn't matter to them. See, back then what they would do is they would try to hurt you. And when they seen when I had to potato that one boy, then they didn't want to have nothing to do with me. So they tried to break me down. and they do what they call stretching, and I would be hollering, but see, I would just counter everything that they would do to me. And they say, you got to work on your working punch, but you could work out for this. They said that I punched too hard and I hit way too hard. People ain't gonna want to work with me, because in the wrestling business, if you want to make good money, you can't be no old, you know, kind of rude boy or rude girl. You have to be, a sensible person. And a person that's able to get along with everybody. But it was hard. It was very hard to just get my foot in the door of professional wrestling. We're sitting here with Miss Amen, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back. Ernest Justin Turkey Leg, what you tell you guys about this week on the Anthony channel. That's right. For the throwback, it's going to be a marathon of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So you might want to catch that. Also, he's going to be playing the Ninja Turtles movies 1, 2, and 3. But on Sunday, only part 1 going to come on. And then they're going to play the special on TNT. Or wait, if it's the Anthony channel. Yeah, see, sometimes the Anthony channel play whatever on TNT because, they don't know what to play. So sometimes they'll be turning back and forth. And you're like, ooh, this part on that part. And then sometimes, since they go to commercials at different times, you'll turn to one and it's off a little bit. And you're like, hey, how I got to that part? But yeah, they just got different commercial times. So that's what's going on this week on the Anthony channel.
Need auto parts? Shop O'Reilly Auto Parts. With convenient locations nationwide and well-trained professional parts people, you can count on O'Reilly to help you get back on the road fast.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Back here with Sister Loretta, ladies and gentlemen, and you was talking about, getting back into the game and trying to get things started, but I guess things still wasn't really working out for you in those days. No, it still hadn't worked to the point that I would like it to. But looking back, it was good. It's not as if I hadn't accomplished many things, because I've wrestled Ric Flair, I wrestled Dusty Rhodes, I wrestled Ted DiBiase, Lanny Poffo. I wrestled Bruno Sammartino. I sure did. And I wrestled a lot of people. You see, but it just never was recorded. And when I had done my training, Dean Campbell and flew me on down to Puerto Rico, and that's where I first got my first started in the wrestling business, where I was actually a wrestler. It was down in Puerto Rico. And how was that environment? Crazy as hell. But Dean, he had learned Spanish. You see, he was a smart white man, and he had to learn Spanish. And he knew how to talk to him, so he would talk for me. But when it came to wrestling, I was what they would call a shooter. Cause see, I didn't know nothing about what those Puerto Ricans were saying. So I would just go out there and I would just tell the story that made sense to me. And I would sell. But mostly I'm just going out there to whoop somebody's ass. And they become very impressed with me that a woman could come out there and do these types of things. See, back then I was able to do all kind of top rope maneuvers and dive-ins and things like that. It's just crazy. Like, you don't think that I mean back then it wasn't no like females that you was coming across. Not in my league, not during that time period. Not many females were involved. They had me wrestling up against the men. It was different back then. But everything was just on the underground. And every now and again, you know, you would see, but I mean wrestling was underground. And every now and again, you know, certain territories would cross paths. And, you know, everybody knew who Ric Flair was. And he was the world champion. And everybody wanted a piece of Ric Flair. But I didn't wrestle him when he was the champion. I wrestled Ric Flair when he came down to Florida. I spent about a year in Puerto Rico and ain't learned a lick of Spanish. But we came back to Florida, and that's where I wrestled Ric Flair at what they call a house show for $10. They gave me $10, and for the longest time, I felt like they would jail me because the men would get paid $20. See, but they only paid me $10, and I felt like they hadn't dealt fair with me. And I had a big falling out with the promoter there. And I punched him in his mouth. And that was my last time working at FCW. And when I have found out, how'd you find out? Because they told me. See, I never had you know, knowed anything about any of the other wrestlers' business. But, you know, it just came out. Or somebody, you know, in conversation. And I said, what? They only paying me $10. But $20 ain't nothing. Anyway, you know. But still, $10. You know, what you gonna do with that? And I just clawed and scratched. But I just wanted to be a wrestler. And so that's what I did. It's crazy. I mean, when did A-Man come into the picture, you know? A-Man, let me see. I had A-Man back in 78. I had him, and I had started doing pretty well for myself because I was seeing A-Man's father. See, everybody don't know that A-Man is A-Man Jr. But his father, A-Man Sr., he's the one that kind of came and, you know, swept me off my feet. He was at one of the wrestling shows, and he said, girl, you working hard. And I said, yeah, but I love it. And I was wrestling Abdullah the Butcher, and he was bleeding, and I was bleeding, and he wanted to take me to dinner. And I hadn't gained so much weight by that time. I started picking up my old habits again and eating so much. But I was having these good matches, And where you standing about around this time? We had done moved on. We wanted to, and during that whole time, we wanted to go to New York. So that's what Campbell always was talking about. New York. But what we ended up doing was moving into Texas territory. Yeah, yep. And what ended up happening was we moved to Texas, and that's where Amen was conceived. You see, because they was paying a little bit better money out there in Texas, where we come to find out. And then they I guess somebody seen somebody or knew something, and they had found out about me, and we got the call from New York, and that's what ended up happening. But you see, I was pregnant. I had to come to find out I got pregnant, and so once I got to New York, they said that they couldn't use me. So there I was, up in New York, and it was crazy. I was like, I can't deal with this. I'm from the South. This is too much, just crazy. It's just, and New York back then was, it's not the New York of today. But it was still very hard. It was something else. And I moved to Harlem, and that's where Amen was born. And we stayed there for several years until we moved back down to Florida in 1985. And back in 85 is where, I got started in XTV. And Amen was, I got started in 95, but I was always in the background, this is a place where Amen could, because I had hoped that, I wanted to pass down wrestling to my next generation. And so, having a boy, I had always hoped that I could get somebody that could, knock down those barriers that I had knocked down. And Amen did that. And I was so proud. And that's why Amen would be so happy and be in tears, because he knowed what I went through. And I always tell him stories about being a black woman and trying to get into a tough business, and how they treat you, and how they talk at you. Call me a nigger, call me a cunt, all kind of things. Who called you that? Bill Watts. I couldn't stand Bill Watts. I couldn't stand his ass. He was in the he had took over the Atlanta territory. Let's see. Oh, so you worked in Atlanta too. Yeah, well, see what happened was, once Amen, got to around about, he may have been 4 or 5 years old. He was just a young boy, very young. He was 4 or 5, maybe 6. And I was still being a wrestler. And so he would be looked after by his father, Amen Senior. And what happened now was I had moved to Atlanta. And I wrestled there for a while under Bill Watts. And I couldn't stand him. And everybody was scared of him, but I wasn't scared of Bill Watts. I sure wasn't. He was this big old burly white boy. And he had his cowboy hat on, and he had cowboy boots. Big old man. And I said, I ain't scared of you. That's right, and I punched him in his jaw. And he grabbed me around, he had me, he was choking me, and all the wrestlers was trying to pull us off each other. It was bad. Can't believe that. Harley Race. Can't stand him. To this day, I can't stand him. And everybody say he's a legend, and he was good. And everybody was scared of Harley Race too. Everybody was scared of Harley Race, but guess what? Black Jack Mulligan, he took my side, cause he took a liking to me. He respected me, and I was friends with Black Jack. And Black Jack Mulligan got in Harley Race's face because I told Black Jack that Harley had called me a nigga, and he did. And then Black Jack confronted Harley, and he had picked up Harley by his collar, and Harley's feet were dangling off the side of the wall. And he said, if you ever call her a N-word again, you're going to have to deal with me. And then he tossed him down. And what Harley Race did? Nothing. No, Blackjack didn't play. He sure didn't. But I stayed there in that territory, and then I just had got tired of it. I just wanted to be around family again. And then Aman's father, he ended up getting killed. And he got killed in a drive-by because he dove dope. And I got back down here, and it was terrible. And that's why I got Aman involved in the wrestle, so that he can have a reason. Because I seen ways of Aman in me. You know, I seen a lot of my ways in him, right? Because Aman would fight in school, you know, and he would pick fights with people. And at a young age, I wanted him to be able to channel that energy. And see, being aside, he was able to do that. But I started him around about 9 or 10. See, back then, that was the age where, you know, you could do that. And I met Miss Doe, Owana. I met her around that time, and we become good friends. And she loved wrestling too. And come to find out, she had, you know, had this extensive background as well. And we would just always talk about the business and talk about our kids. And she had she had baby, and I believe Michelle is her daughter as well. I don't know where Michelle goes. I haven't seen her. But anyway, she was just a little girl, and she would tag along with a man all the time. And a man would be so terrible. He would get into so much trouble. And they all got involved. And they met King Kong when he was a little boy. A lot of young people. Anthony. And Anthony, he was real good too back then. You know, he could do all kinds of crazy stuff. And they liked him, but they liked their man too. A man had been doing things first. Anthony came on a little later. And a man was the headliner. He was the big talker in the streets, and he would come home and he would tell me about it. But it wasn't such a big deal then. There were no accolades. There was no championship or nothing like that. Until a man had got that call from New York. They called a man. Yep, they called him. And he ended up as a part of their main team. He sure did. And that's how he would wrestle up against Kamala and Randy Savage. Because back then, XTV wasn't how it is today in the 80s. So, since there were such limited people, I mean, you can count on one hand how many people was here. And I think, it was probably King Kong baby and my baby, A-Man. And that's why Anthony had to make himself aside, because there weren't anybody else. So that's why they had to have, all those other wrestlers. And that's what New York was known for, those big crazy wrestlers. But I wasn't, raised like that, or I didn't come up that way. Watching it was entertaining, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, our style of wrestling, what we picked up was real smash mouth style, how do you say, and I would get into real brawls. But once a man started doing well for himself, I started to back down and just back off. And I watched him, cause I still was chasing after my dream, but they still didn't want to show me. They still didn't put me on, and I guess I had gotten too old by then. I was already 50 years old. So I backed away, and then I had Lucky, and I had him with a different man who I had met. Lucky and A-Man is half brothers. But I had Lucky. And Lucky, I wanted the same for him too. All he wanted to do was eat everything. That's all he wanted to do. And the day he was born, he come out eating milk, drinking milk, and just everything. The boy was eating before he could even chew. He was a big baby. I was always hungry when I was pregnant with Lucky. I had never been that hungry. I don't know what the hell kind of seed that was that he impregnated me with. But that was an eating boy. Goodness. And he's still fat.
Yeah, he is. But Lucky, kind of grew. I mean, he ain't get to the status as Big Ten or A-Man rather. But I mean, he still got a chance.
If he could pull away from the darn table, that's Lucky's problem. He eat too much. And then he runs his mouth all the time. That's how he was. He always had to have the last word. I would bop him upside his head. Because he always got to talk back. Man wasn't like that. He say, yes, ma'am. Yes, mama. That's why I don't beat up on a man. I beat up on Lucky to show him. You're going to learn some respect. Yeah.
The story of Miss A-Man, ladies and gentlemen. We got to take another break. We'll be right back in just a little bit. Stay with us. And it's Justin Turkey Leg here one more time to tell you guys about another product that you should not purchase. Belkin. That's right. Anything from Belkin is probably not good. I had picked up an external hard drive. Oh, what was that? It was some type of little flash drive that you hook up to your computer so that you can pick up Wi-Fi. Yeah, man. I hooked that thing up, knocked out all my Wi-Fi. And every single time, I had to keep on going to my modem and resetting it, waiting for about 5, 6, 30 minutes just for it to pop on. All because of this product that I picked up from Best Buy by Belkin. Don't buy that.
Hey bros, it's Brian Millman here with the New Millennium Podcast, and this week I promise I have Yaki Naiji. He came back, he finally explained exactly what was going on, why he missed us the first time, and it's a pretty good story. We go back in history and check out what Yaki was doing before XTV. It's a pretty cool conversation. We go really in depth, talk about the things that you guys want to hear about. That's this week on the New Millennium Podcast here on the XTV East Coast Network.
The New Millennium Podcast with Brian Millman.
Back here with Miss A-Man, ladies and gentlemen. And, you was talking about, how A-Man had got that call from New York, WWE, or the WWF at the time, which was, what we gravitated towards too, or what XTV gravitated towards too. I personally wasn't here at the time. But, talk about what that was like. Because it's like, okay, they called up A-Man, to be a part of their team.
Well, that's a funny story because, like I said back then, we thought that it was real. People thought that it was real. It was still real back then, sort of. And so, things started to come out, but it was always somebody trying to challenge you on the street. And I would always get picked on. I don't know why you always doing that fakey stuff. Why you won't get into a real match? Something like that. And I say, fuck you. I get into a fight. Men, women, it didn't matter. It was at bars, at clubs, all the time. I used to get arrested so much. Even then, fight. But that's what they called it, though. They called it protecting the business back then. Because, you know, you wasn't supposed to know that, you know, that it was a work. And so, anyway, I had got a call from, I had got a phone call one day. And I think it was summertime. I think, yeah, summertime 1988. And I got a call from Andre the Giant. And he said, he had that deep old voice, and I ain't know who the hell was on my telephone. And he, hey, I want to talk to A-Man. I want him to come down to the WWF. And I said, fuck you, Andre. You ain't gonna fuck with my son. And he said, you listen to me. I want to talk to A-Man and bring him down to the WWF. And I hung up on his face. And what ended up happening was Dean, because you know he had took A-Man up under his wing, Dean Campbell. And I guess they got in contact with Dean. And A-Man come home. And Dean told A-Man. And A-Man come home. And he said, Mama, did you get a call from the WWE? And I said, no, baby, I ain't getting no call from WWE. Or he said WWF. I'm sorry, I got a text message. He said WWF. And I said, no, I ain't getting no call. I said, the only person called here was that darn Andre the Giant. And I told him don't call here no more, because he don't want nothing but trouble. He was like, no, Mama, he was calling to tell you. He was calling to tell me that he wanted to be a part of, he want me to be a part of the WWF, World Wrestling Federation. And I said, oh, I didn't know that. I thought he was calling here looking for a fight, because he played a bad guy on TV. And I had said, I'm sorry, baby. And he said, no, it's all right, Mama, because Dean and I done settled everything, and we got things situated. And he got started with WWF. They liked him, and they liked his style. And he wrestled there for a long time until he had got hurt. And then they made him they just made him an announcer after a while. At one point, did he get hurt? He got hurt probably around 91. Probably after about 2 years. He did real good. He was what they call a jobber. They would just, you know, they pay him money, and he'd just come out there, and he'd have to wrestle up against a guy and, you know, get beat up, you know, and make the guy look like he's real tough. And so that's what he'd do. But he got hurt doing that. So he had to come on home, and he'd have to, you know, sit on the sideline, and he was sad. But Anthony went on and used him, and he put him on the announcer. And he said, you know, one day you're going to be a star. And he ain't, and he said, he ain't believe him at the time. But he did. He made him a huge star. Because in Anthony's mind, he's seen it fit that since A-Man was the first one to be a side, that he should be known as that, and that he should be propelled to that level of a star that he is.
It was very well done. Now he Big Ten money. He a legend. And it's just crazy. I mean, you talked about how it felt for you to see a man win those championships, and I remember around about 1996 or 97-ish, A-Man defeating White Fang for the SIDE Heavyweight Championship, and you getting to get that cut, that scene backstage, that was the first time that ever had happened, where you would see, a man who was a heel on TV, on the TV screen, but behind the scenes, it kind of threw you off because he was having this moment like, look, I did it. He's got the championship, he's got the belt, he brings it home, and you give him this big ass hug, and it was just like for the East Coast, it was unlike anything that ever happened, on wrestling. Prior to that, it was everything was separated, but it was just that special thing about A-Man because he was like the only guy who was a side and a wrestler that he could cross over and you can see both lives.
Yeah. And I was so proud. I'd be so proud. And he would want to involve Lucky. And Lucky, he'd be standing over there. His friend Flamingo, 90. When Baby was there. And it was a big old family. We were all family. And we still are. We're still very much family.
It's just a great thing. They say, man, you was my old Food Society member. You remember those days?
All we did, we ain't talk about shit, but we would sit around and eat. And I would bring Lucky. He used to love that. He would say, Mom, when's the next Food Society meeting? I say, hush up, boy. You just want to eat. You want to think about eating something.
Those are some fun times. We're gonna have Fat Girl on this show.
Ooh, that was a big moment.
She was I think she was like 400 pounds.
Mm-hmm. That is a big woman. And she was big. And she would take up 2 chairs and ain't nobody want to sit next to her because she was always bumping into somebody. Big old girl. I can't believe she's still alive.
Yep, she's still alive. She ain't that big. I mean, she kind of big, but she ain't that size no more. She lost a significant amount of weight, but she's still big. But she looks still good, good looking lady.
That's good. I had to shed off a whole lot of my weight, because I want to be healthy. For however long I'm gonna stick around here.
I hear you on that. Let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, Miss A-Man, you probably known as having, they say the hardest punch in all of XTV.
Yeah, and they didn't think that I had a wrestle, and I didn't start wrestling until probably about 2001. I think I might have, showed up here or there in 96 or so. But 2001 is where they started to put together these shows, and Sides of Mania, Sides of the Armory. That's the place that I used to go to, the Armory. No, it ain't. I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, I don't remember what I was talking about.
You were saying how, people didn't think that you could wrestle,
Oh yeah, and that's when I told them, because they put me in the match up against some woman or some man rather, because they saw me as just a small time person, because a man had gotten so big and he had become a star, and I did fairly well, but I wasn't as big as he was. But I told him I can wrestle too, and they took me serious after that, because they said, oh, she can wrestle. But they didn't know that I had been wrestling, but I had just never wrestled on sides.
yeah.
And so that's where that idea came from, that I had the toughest punch or the hardest punch or whatever, because like I said, I never threw a good working punch. And so, here I was this great sized woman. I wasn't as big as Fat Girl, or what her name is. I ain't trying to disrespect the woman. I wasn't that big, but I was solid. And so I could do a whole lot of extraordinary things.
Yeah. It's like, A-Man was such a big deal that it kind of like carried over, to you. It's just like, yeah, this is his mother. She souped up too. Not so much Lucky though.
That's because Lucky ain't want to do nothing but eat. And it's sad what happened to his father. I wish that hadn't happened to him, because he was a part of Lucky's life, very much so. And that was a great thing. It's like the XTV curse. People parents is always dying. We got that Bruce Wayne effect. Well, that remind me of that boy Bruce tried to act like he wasn't Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. I don't know why the hell Bruce just wouldn't fess up. Gonna shave his head. We know it's your ass. Oh man, it's a good time. As I'm sitting up here with Miss A-Man. Miss A-Man, you got any other things that you want to talk about, or that you want to plug or anything?
Well, no, I don't have anything. I'm just blessed to be here, and I'm just gonna continue to enjoy everything.
I wanted to ask you about, your status. Like, can you perform in the ring after taking such a hellacious shot at the hands of Ada back in 2010? I mean, do you think that you'll ever be able to get in the ring and perform on a high level like you've been, all those other years?
Well, I think that with my age, I probably should stay away from the ring. But I don't know. Maybe I get back in there. They were thinking about a whole lot of things for me, and there was a lot of talks about whether or not I should get back in the ring. But she really hurt me, and she put me out of action, and she felt terrible about it, and she was just crying, coming back there and sobbing and slobbing. And I said, it's all right, girl. That's what happened. And they thought that I was going to be mad. But I was happy for the girl. I wanted them to, put her over. And make her be the girl that, took me out, which she is. And, she's very acclimated. And I'm happy for her.
That's a beautiful thing. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Sister Loretta Amen. Thank you, Miss Amen, for coming out here.
Thank you, Justin, for having me.